Folks, welcome into sportsbookreview.com. This is your NFL show for Thursday, September 24, 2020. It is my favorite show of the week. Why is that? Because now we know the game plan that we're going to execute this weekend. If you guys notice right now, also, we are in our SBR tuxedos right now, getting ready to talk football. I'm Donnie RightSide Kyle Purviance. Kyle, week 3, NFL. We're ready to get after it.
I'm excited, and I'm just waiting to get my tuxedo pants so I can be fully dressed for one of these shows. You know what I mean? Yeah. When you live this bachelor lifestyle, it's hard to get fully dressed. But no, I'm really excited about week 3. A ton of good games this weekend. Once again, a lot of injuries to go through, a lot of moving parts right now in the NFL. But so far, certainly the best slate of games. I mean, 4 or 5 games really stand out. It's going to be a fun Sunday, and even funner Monday, in my opinion. Really looking forward to week 3.
Yeah, one blowout game, or we'd think one blowout game based on the odds makers would be the Jets and Indianapolis Colts, but everything else within a touchdown. So we're going to have some fun breaking this card down. Our normal Thursday show, going to be fantastic. We'll go through every single game on the card. We know the players of the game, at least we think here with all these crazy injury reports, but we are going to hit each and every game here, guys. 30 people watching already live just to start the show. This is one of our most watched shows of the week. We appreciate it because it's good, Kyle, for Thursday. It's good for Friday. It's good for Saturday and brushing up Sunday morning. Do you know why it's not good after Sunday morning? Because we go live again at noon to set you up for kickoff each and every Sunday on our pregame show, so always check that out. If you need any more content out there, check out SBRpicks.com/NFL. Click that link and you will get all the information, all the videos you need to be a smarter gambler in the NFL. Chat box out here. David, Sean, and Joseph, welcome into the chat box. We will get it live and get it popping, as we like to say. But we got football tonight. It's Thursday night football. Minshew Mania in Jacksonville, 301-302. Those Miami Dolphins, the state of Miami. A nice little battle here. We know the players in this one, Fitzpatrick versus Gardner Minshew. Interesting information coming out earlier today. No DJ Chark at wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars, their leading wide receiver. That should impact this game. But looking at the line itself, we already talked about it early in the week. Opened up at 1.5, still sitting at about 3. But people can't get enough of this over. 44 it opens at early in the week. Now sits at 49. And even some outlets in New Jersey, Kyle, 49.5 at FanDuel, even though Chark is going to be out. You'd still think there's going to be points scored in this game because you have 2 quarterbacks that are just going to sling it all game long. Maybe some turnovers, maybe some big plays, but just first look at this game. Chark injury is big. I'm starting to look a little bit more on the Miami side, not to win, but there's some team totals that interest me, Kyle. Interesting game tonight, no doubt about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the things that helps the over is the all-world corner for Miami. Byron Jones will be out tonight. You also have the kicker. Jacksonville had to put Josh Lambo on injured reserve last night, so they bring up Brandon Wright to be their kicker. So you could see some sloppy kicks, some missed extra points. Don't know much about the kid. On the Jacksonville side, losing DJ Chark is huge, but they certainly have other weapons in that wide receiving core. Keelan Cole's been really good. The rookie Laviska Shenault has looked awesome, even out of the backfield. They still have Chris Conley, who has some big play upside, and maybe, just maybe, we see a little D.D. Westbrook for the first time this year, who has basically been a forgotten man in that wide receiving core. But you're right, these are 2 teams that throw the ball a ton. You're not going to see a ton of handoffs. It's going to sort of be by committee for Miami with Gaskin and Howard and Matt Breida on occasion. And then you got the kid James Robinson, who kind of came out of nowhere and has kind of been a DFS and fantasy darling, waiver wire darling. So I still am leaning towards the over. I hate taking overs on Thursday night, but I'm 2 for 2 doing that so far this year. The Cleveland-Cincinnati game and, of course, the Kansas City-Houston game both went over on Thursday night. Battling some injuries. I'm thinking that Chark, Byron Jones injuries sort of offset each other. I'm looking for a lot of passes, and I'm looking for some points. So even though I'm nervous about it, I'm leaning towards that over still.
No, there's no under for me in this one because you're looking at 2 defenses that basically look like they're a sieve right now early in the season, and you're looking at 2 playmaking quarterbacks. Now, probably not in your, fantasy dreams of saying, boy, Minshew's amazing or, Fitzpatrick is amazing, but they do 2 things really well, Kyle. They extend plays and they throw into coverage, which you'll continually hear me say. They are great boom or bust quarterbacks, so they are not under guys. They're going to throw for the end zone, pick 6 or not. They're going to be able to move the chains down the field. And also keep in mind, at the end of the game, there's not 2 better quarterbacks in this game where if it's a double-digit lead with 5 minutes to go. No doubt about it, these guys are driving their teams down the field. If we take a look at some of the team totals out here tonight, Jacksonville Jaguars sitting at about a 25.5, and the Miami Dolphins at 22.5. Now, normally, I would swing Kyle right over to the Jacksonville Jaguars side because I like to take home teams on Thursday Night Football. But when I look at the overall matchup here, you get Devontae Parker seemingly getting healthy each week. Gesicki has been absolutely amazing, and you couple that with Fitzpatrick going against a trash can defense. I really like that over 22.5 for the Miami Dolphins. Would it surprise you, and this is why I always like to key things just to keep it simple, if the Dolphins got 17 points or 24 points? It would surprise me if the Jacksonville defense holds the Miami Dolphins to like 17 points. So if I don't think they're going to hold them to 17 points, they'll be in the 20s. Good look at that. I like the over 22.5 for the Miami Dolphins tonight.
Yeah, I like that. I like the over on both teams. I could very easily see a 30-24 type of game, and that's kind of how it feels like it's going to be. Again, you wonder about the special teams for Jacksonville. Will they go for 2 more? Will they go for more fourth downs, bringing up a practice squad kicker? I think it's going to be a fun game. I know these aren't 2 teams that everyone's excited to watch. I, for one, we were kind of talking about Jacksonville even before the season started, and I've got Minshew as my backup quarterback on both my fantasy teams. I also have DJ Chark, so that's why he's hurt. I cannot keep a wide receiver healthy to save my life. Cortland Sutton, Golladay, Chark, it just goes on and on and on. But I think tonight you're going to see a lot of passes. It's going to be a lot of fun. Both defenses very vulnerable, so it should be a high-scoring game going into the 50s. I like the over, and I like the over totals for both teams, quite frankly.
Yeah, and I think that obviously you would love to get in the 44 earlier in the week, but it's game day. It's what the numbers that we got to talk about. But it's interesting that even though wide receiver is out, people can't get enough for the over/under. But that is a direct look at both of these defenses and what we anticipate from 2 quarterbacks that they're not dink and dunkers. If the shot is there, they're both going to take it, and that should mean some good things. So we'll wrap around towards the end of the show back again on this Miami-Jacksonville game. But let's get to the Sunday card. Really good action starting right away on the East Coast here. Check it out. 1-1 New England, who lost basically on the last play of the game versus a really good Seattle squad going against 2-0 Las Vegas Raiders. Carr and Newton are going to tee this one up. About a 50-50 ticket split. And how about some line movement going in the opposite direction than I actually thought it would be? Keep in mind, again, no fans are going to be in New England. Opens up at a 6. Now I'm seeing 5s across the board. Some 5.5s are out there depending on where you're shopping at. Over/under in this game opens up at 48. That now sits at 47, 47.5, and also 48s. We preach this all the time. Now in the advent of days, we have the offshore mix with the legal mix. I have 5 different sports books up on my laptop right to the right of me, swinging apart. And those same things are true. Back in the day, we had like maybe a bookie, maybe one outlet. You're stuck sitting there at a 48 when you like the over, when you can slide it to a 47. And those points make a big difference long-term in gambling. Might not feel that way this upcoming weekend or this game, but long-term, if you're stealing a point and a half from every total or every side throughout your games, you're going to be profitable over the long term. But let's take a look at this game as it matches up. I got to be honest with you. Taking a look at Las Vegas, it's a nice win. They go on the road against the Carolina Panthers. Panthers don't really have much resistance on defense. They come home and they play, at home, christen the new building, again, with no fans there. Nice second half. They pull away from Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. But now they're going to get a heavy dose of an offense looking like it's finally coming into its own with New England, with another game with Cam Newton under his belt. And also, to me, a much better defense on the New England side than you have on the Raiders side. I don't agree with this line movement here. You also see in practice Brandon Jacobs banged up in the running back banged up, as well as Waller was banged up, missing some practice earlier this week. Coming east, I'm not going to fade New England at this point, specifically at home. It seems like a cheap number to me at 5. It's Thursday. I like the Patriots in the spot. I just do.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite plays of the weekend, honestly, right now. You talked about Jacobs and Waller have not practiced at all this week. Now, they could just being cautious with their young players. But you mentioned it, coming off a dramatic Monday night win, a game they weren't expected to win at home against a good Saints team. Now you're traveling to the East Coast, 10 a.m. start on, 10 o'clock on the West Coast, 1 o'clock on the East Coast. Early game against New England, who looked really good against Seattle. That defense is still lights out. And if Josh Jacobs is limited and they're forced to throw the football more, you're playing right into the strength of that Patriots defense. -5 seems too low. I think they win this game by over a touchdown. I actually have some blowout concern in this game, so I'm probably staying away from the total for me, but I like New England a lot, -5 and even -5.5 I'm seeing on a couple of books.
You had cooler weather also last week on the East Coast, but now we're getting back into that late summer weather, 78 degrees at kickoff. Yeah. So a lot of these games on the East Coast, you're going to get good weather. Not a lot of wind here. I'm seeing between 7 to 9 miles an hour up there in Foxborough. So optimum scoring conditions. I think, look, and again, I talk about myself, the chameleon that is Bill Belichick and, Josh McDaniels on offense. You saw where they say, look, I don't think Miami can hurt us. But then you saw the increase of going downfield and making more big plays against Seattle, knowing that Russell Wilson in Seattle was going to score on anybody, and they have to keep pace. It's going to be interesting to see what they come out, but I like the way Cam Newton is playing. It's still early in the season, so what that means is they haven't opened up their entire playbook yet, so they'll have some new wrinkles. But also, what's the biggest difference here, Kyle? Cam Newton looks like he's healthy for the first time in a couple years. They should move the football against the Las Vegas Raiders. If I'm taking a look here, let me see if I can swing down and maybe get a look at a total in this game for both sides. Looks like we have the Raiders at about 20.5 as a team total, and the New England Patriots at 26.5. So roughly 4 touchdowns to get behind that. I think they can do that. I would like to see that line swing down, maybe a little bit difference, but I do believe, to me, New England is the play in this game. So we'll keep moving. It's a good game. It's a good early game.
Another injury to note is Nick Kwiatkowski, probably their best linebacker, also not practicing, and Richie Cognito on that offensive line looks like he's going to miss. Did they put him on IR yet? I think they were talking about maybe
Incognito is on IR, I believe.
Yeah, Incognito on IR. So a lot of question marks for the Raiders. It feels like the deck is stacked against them. New England's the pick for me this week.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to go with it. I know it's not even really that big of a public side. You're talking about 56% on New England, and that line is dropping. And granted, again, I like what I saw at Las Vegas. Like, they look like a competent foe that maybe you would look at this game and say, can they get inside the number at the end of the game? Because, again, we don't just pick sides here saying, New England's just going to win the game 24-23. You got to win and cover, but I do like the New England Patriots in the spot here. Let's keep going. One of the games of the week, the one I had circled here, great game, 463-464. That is the Los Angeles Rams coming back east after beating the Philadelphia Eagles in convincing fashion. They're going to go another level up because the Eagles aren't playing good football, but you know who's playing good football? The Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, Jared Goff in this one. 60% of the tickets here coming in on the Los Angeles Rams. Going across the board, we see an increase in the over in this game. Opened at around 45 offshore. Now we're seeing those 47s, 47.5s creep through. The line opened up at a soft 3 number and sort of settled in right at 2.5, and I agree. I've been bouncing back and forth in this game all week. I really like the Buffalo Bills, but sometimes we have to take a look and say, okay, I had the Bills coming into the season. I thought they could win the division. These are the games you need to win in order to win the division and overtake the New England Patriots. But how good are the Buffalo Bills? Because we take a look at who they beat week 1, the Jets. Who did they beat week 2? The Miami Dolphins. Now you're leveling up in competition, but I know you're going to bring up this good point as well. 3 running backs in that, 3-headed monster, so to speak, for the Rams. 2 of those guys are banged up, and one is a young kid that looks like is going to get a lot of the workload heading into this weekend. I love the wide receivers for the Rams, no doubt about it. I love the play calling of Sean McVay. They have good tight ends, but now you're also looking to get Matt Milano back at middle linebacker and also Edmonds, who missed last week. Now you have that full-go defense where the Eagles couldn't get home. This defense should be able to pressure Jared Goff, and we still have those notions in our head. How many times have we seen Goff under pressure struggling? Boy, this guy was the number 1 overall pick. He's not shaking it out. I like the Buffalo Bills in the spot. Bills are at home. Again, we always preface this by saying there's not 65,000 wild and crazy Bills Mafia fans in the stands, but I like the direction the Bills are going. I think they'll be able to score, and I think the number is cheap. I think the Bills can win this game by at least a field goal here, Kyle.
Yeah, and I was right there with you, flip-flopping back and forth. And you sort of go over the injury report, too. Aaron Donald not practicing. Andrew Whitworth, their best offensive lineman, not practicing. Lots of guys for Buffalo, too, limited or not practicing. And a lot of that, I'm sure, is just...
A lot of it's rest days for them.
Just rest days, absolutely. But you got the Rams back-to-back East Coast games. Again, another early game on the East Coast. I just think Buffalo is legit. The strength of that Rams offense, especially with the injuries to the running back position, I'm glad you brought that up, is that wide receiver core. Well, when you look at the strength of that Bills defense, that secondary is legit. Teron Johnson, Tre'Davious White, etc. So I think it's a small number, 2.5. I like Buffalo this week. It just seems like an uphill battle for the Rams with all the injuries and all the travel, facing a really good team. How are they going to, especially if Aaron Donald is hobbled at all whatsoever, he's going to put pressure up the middle of that defense. And then what's Josh Allen going to do? He's just going to roll to the right where he's most effective, moving the pocket and scrambling. So I think the strengths of Buffalo playing to the weaknesses of LA this week. I like Buffalo to cover.
Because and the Wayne thing is you're never as good as what you see the last week before. Or, you're never as down as you are. Look, the Rams beat a decent Cowboys team at home, which Cowboys didn't play all that well. But you got to give credit to the Rams. They come out east and beat up on the Philadelphia Eagles final score-wise. But let's also remember, 8 minutes to go in the third quarter in that game. The Eagles were down a couple points. Wentz throws maybe on the 25-yard line heading in, throws that terrible interception on first down. If they don't cash that in, that might be a different game. And the Philadelphia Eagles' defensive game plan was absolutely horrendous in that game. You didn't have the linebackers to keep up with Higbee as the tight end spot. You couldn't stop the run at all. That's not going to be the case if you get both of those linebackers back for the Buffalo Bills. So, as we like to preface and give a nice little, shout out to our Sunday morning show, Sunday at noon, we're going to know who's in and out at linebacker, and that's going to be key because if both of those linebackers are up, that's going to give the Buffalo Bills a boost. I like the Bills in the spot. Should be a really good game to watch. Let's keep moving here. We'll go down to Pittsburgh, a little bit south of Buffalo. That's 465, 466. Houston coming to town with Deshaun Watson and Ben Roethlisberger. About 6 out of every 10 tickets here coming in on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Here's one of those line moves of the week that we talk about as well. Opens up at 5.5, coming down to 4, and we also see the total. It's a cheap number here. 45 it opens up at, Kyle. Mostly 45s across the board, depending on where you're shopping at, but some 44.5s at some of the sharper books. It looks easy to me to take the Pittsburgh Steelers because you should be able to run the football against Houston. Their defense doesn't provide all that much of what it even was just a few years ago when you had Jadeveon Clowney and J.J. Watt healthy on that defense and a much better secondary. You're not as explosive on offense with the Houston Texans of what you have been the past couple years. But I do agree with this line movement because when you laugh and joke about the NFL and maybe the NFL doesn't like certain teams or maybe wants to get Bill O'Brien fired, what's the way to get Bill O'Brien fired? Give him the Ravens, give him the Kansas City Chiefs, and give him the Steelers back to back and really put the pressure on them. The question I have is Pittsburgh needs to come out and dominate this football game from a defensive front seven perspective. The one guy that you probably would like to have as a quarterback against a dominant pass rush, Deshaun Watson. Why? Because he can get away, he can make some plays outside of the pocket, but still banged up Duke Johnson in the backfield. Brandon Cook still banged up at wide receiver. We already seen Will Fuller having hamstring struggles as it is. If you go in there with a half of an offense of what you thought you would have, the Pittsburgh Steelers should be able to shut you down. Sharp action, I guess you could say, on the Texans. We pick every game. Doesn't mean we bet every game. I still would lean towards Houston in this spot because I feel that they've played such good opponents to start the season. You might be a little bit battle-tested in a must-win situation. I have a slight lean towards the Texans in this spot. Which way you look at it? Is it Steelers for you at home, or maybe this is the Texans' last stand after what they had the past 2 weeks?
I think the Texans' last stand is when they traded DeAndre Hopkins in the offseason. I have absolutely no faith in this team. And I love Ben Roethlisberger at home. He is just so good at home. The Steelers, I know there's no fans, and I know they don't have the terrible towels, but they are so good at home. And this defense, it's not getting any easier. You could argue Pittsburgh and Baltimore, very equivalent defenses. And then the Chiefs, who they played week 1, an okay defense. We saw a rookie quarterback kind of light them up last week, and they still struggled to get 20 points against the Houston Texans. What are you going to do now in Pittsburgh? And some interesting stuff in this game. We have the 3 Watt brothers in this game. It's the second time since 1927, according to Elias Sports, right? Where three brothers played in the same game. The last time it happened, I believe, was last year, Pittsburgh and Buffalo with the Edmonds brothers. But I really like Pittsburgh in this spot. Last week, Will Fuller did not have a single catch. And I know he's battling a hamstring. That's what Will Fuller does, is battle hamstring injuries. But you have got to get him the football. He is your most explosive offensive player other than your quarterback, Deshaun Watson. And some good news for you Houston fans or bettors is this week, even though Pittsburgh does have a terrific secondary and Joe Hayden is a terrific corner, he's not a shadow corner. He plays on that defensive left side of the field. 99% of his defensive snaps are played on the defensive left side, while 44% of the time Will Fuller will line up on that right side where he'll see Steven Nelson, who has been probably the more vulnerable secondary player for Pittsburgh. You still have Minkah Fitzpatrick back there. I just don't see how Houston could put up enough points against a Pittsburgh offense that's going to move the ball at home against a porous Houston defense. I like the Steelers a lot in the spot. Ben Roethlisberger at home, especially when you're getting less than a touchdown and the numbers getting shorter and shorter. Let the Sharps have all the Houston they want. I'll take Pittsburgh.
I can't disagree because it's a great front seven. And the one downside of making plays and having a quarterback who can get out of the way of the pass rush is he holds the ball for a long time. That front seven should be able to get home. I'm going to lead in a close, hard-fought battle. I do think Pittsburgh is the edge here. If you ask me right now who's going to win the game, I believe Pittsburgh should win the game. But there is a good reason why it opens up at 5.5, and it's sitting at 4 currently now. We'll see if that line moves throughout the week here. Tennessee and Minnesota, two teams going in the opposite direction right now. Tennessee and Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, who has been absolutely abysmal, opens up, and it's not a surprise. 8 out of every 10 tickets here coming in on the Tennessee Titans. Opens up at 1.5, moves in the right direction with the money up to 2.5 across the board, but it's very hesitant to get to that 3 number. Now, I'd like to talk about one of those teams, like one of those last stands. Mike Zimmer, usually a really good against the spread guy, specifically against the AFC. They're playing at home again. No fans in that dome, which would make it ear-splitting loud for Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee offense. That's not going to be the case. Tennessee should be able to score points, but how about this over-under jump here, Kyle? 45.5 to open. We now sit at 49, even 49.5 across the board. Some heavy totals that we're seeing. Scoring is up this year in the NFL, but when you take a look at Kirk Cousins, you're saying, wait a second. I watched this team struggle. They scored a little bit of points against Green Bay, but last week against the Indianapolis Colts, not the 77 Steelers by any means. They couldn't do anything last week. There's a referendum on Kirk Cousins. If he stinks this week, should he even be the quarterback anymore? I think Minnesota does play well, but sometimes even myself finding it saying I'm getting a little bit too sharp here, thinking I like the Minnesota Vikings in this game. But I actually do think, Kyle, the Minnesota Vikings score points. Why is that? Because I think Tennessee is going to be able to score on Minnesota, and this is a game that you should be able to put up points. Minshew put up some points against that Tennessee offense. If Kirk Cousins gets some time, and both of his tackles have been playing good football, which you're going to need this week going up against that pass rush for Tennessee, I think Minnesota can get some points in this game. But I also think Tennessee is going to be able to do pretty much what they want. Do I want to take that sharp side of the underdog at home in this spot, absolutely needing a win? Or do I want to sit back and say, well, I could have got, 45, 46, 47, but now we're sitting at 49.5 across the board. I think we do get points in this game, but I think Minnesota might have one of those last stands. But I don't want to be the guy sitting on the sideline here on Sunday, Kyle, going, you know what? Why did I take the Vikings and Cousins,
Yeah, I was that guy last weekend, and it didn't work out. And, you see some interesting things here. It looks like A.J. Brown's actually going to miss this game again, so that certainly hurts that Tennessee offense. Jonnu Smith did not practice again today, and so that's too big. I would expect Jonnu Smith to play. I haven't dug too deep into his injury status, what's going on there, but he's been very, very important to that passing game. With the Vikings losing Anthony Barr, you can see a lot of runs to Derrick Henry. You're going to see that anyway. But this feels like a game where they're going to grind it out, and it does feel too easy to take the Titans, almost like it's a trap, right? Mike Zimmer, a terrific coach. I mean, we were talking in the offseason, it was going to be a two-man race in that NFC North division, the Vikings and the Packers, and the Vikings have looked terrible. If you remember last year, they didn't start very well either, and Kirk Cousins took a ton of heat, and Adam Thielen was, giving him the business on those radio interviews. And then they came out and went on a nice run, made the postseason, ran into my 49ers in the playoffs.
Yep.
It feels like a trap. We talk about it all the time. You're not going to get rich taking road favorites in the NFL. But, I mean, right now, the smart play, of course, is the Titans under a field goal. Feels like a trap, but if I, the proverbial gun to my head, right now I'm leaning the Titans. I just cannot trust that Vikings defense. They have no secondary, no linebackers, no pass rush. Derrick Henry should run wild on this team.
No, you're right about it. And shout out to the people who are very observant in the chat box. Me with my dyslexia skipping over games. But keep in mind, we're going to hit every game. So it doesn't matter which one we go in order. I know I'm probably driving the producers behind the scenes crazy in this one. But maybe I was looking at Kirk Cousins like, you know what? I'm so excited, Kyle, to get after this game. I'm going to skip over this New York Giants game, which we are going to hit right now. San Francisco and the New York Giants. Boy, oh boy, if you need to get a tally or a ledger here to keep up with who's in, who's out in this game, who likes the turf, who doesn't like the turf, this is your game. 467, 468. Mullins is going to be the quarterback this weekend for the San Francisco 49ers versus Daniel Jones. About a 6 out of every 10 tickets here coming in on the San Francisco 49ers. The line opens up at 4, doesn't move all that much, and I'm even seeing some odds here. FanDuel out of New Jersey, 3.5. PointsBet out of New Jersey, 3.5. So shout out that Giants Giants hometown money in my state of New Jersey, but pretty much 4s or across the board. Over-under opens up at 42s. That's dropping to 41.5s. Here's the tail of the tape what you have. San Francisco's coming in with a backup quarterback, Nick Mullins. He does have some NFL experience playing in the NFL, so that's a good thing. Not just going to be thrown into the fire this week. He does know that offense, been there for a couple years. You're really thin at wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, even thinner at the running back position, but you still have Kyle Shanahan. You still have some weapons. Now, George Kittle's putting out those smoke signals like, hey, don't rule me out this week. I might play. If the 49ers have grandeur ideas of winning a Super Bowl, or at least getting back to a Super Bowl this year, it's bad turf, as they say. There's no reason to play George Kittle. If you can't beat the Giants and George Kittle's the difference on one leg, I don't know what to tell you. If I'm George Kittle and the 49ers, I sit this one out and say, you know what, I'm just going to go in the battle here. Because why? The Giants on the front line, decent offensive line, down your best running back, down your best wide receiver. Daniel Jones, we've seen him. He can make some electric plays, but also turn it over at the worst possible times. They dig a hole last week, Kyle, 17-0 for Chicago. Almost battled all the way back to win that game. I'm looking at the same spot as I gave my best bet of the week last week on the New York Giants. I'm looking like a dummy down 17-0, but they come back in the quote-unquote witching hour and come back for a push, needed a missed field, needed a lot of things to go wrong if you're the Chicago Bears not to cover, and they did go wrong, so the Giants picked it up. But I got to tell you, like, you're down a lot of defensive linemen. If you were a full-go defense for the 49ers and the offense for the 49ers was still banged up, I would still like the 49ers a whole heck of a lot because they're going to put immense pressure on the offensive line for the Giants without a lot of weapons, but that's not there. I think the playing field is equal. I think that turf is in the mind of the San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to take the points here.
Yeah, and this is kind of a spot where it's not often where you get an underdog at home where you could take the money line and get some plus money and not look crazy getting some plus 165s and plus 170s. You don't get that all the time when betting the NFL when you're not parlaying things right. So, even Dre Greenlaw was limited in practice today for the 49ers. It's not looking good. And one thing that I know it's a weird way to look at it, but the turf in this stadium is certainly on the minds of the 49ers. They have the league investigating it. Yep. Jimmy Garoppolo's not going to play. Now, Nick Mullins is certainly a capable backup, but we saw him start 8 or 9 games back in 2018, 13 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He's not a terrible player, but it's really hard to take a team when you're down to their third and fourth wide receiver, your backup tight end, your backup quarterback, your third and fourth running backs. And I love my 49ers, and this is a must-win for the 49ers. Make no mistake about it. The rest of that NFC West is off to a great start. They're 2-0, and you've got the 1-1 49ers. Going 1-2 is an early hole to dig yourself into in this division. Right now, sadly, I am leaning the Giants. I'm actually probably going to take a little bit of a shot and try to get some juice and may just take the money line on my Giants. And hopefully I'm jinxing them. Like, it's a win-win for me. If my 49ers cover and I lose my bet, then I feel great and they win the game. And if the Giants win, then I look smart and I win an underdog bet here on Sportsbook Review. And by the way, big shout out to the guys behind the scenes cleaning up Donnie's messes here, making the graphics look beautiful. I love it. Great job to those guys back there. They do a great job.
And to couple off that too, they're probably using a lot of filters like you would on IG to make us look as good as possible here on camera. That's right. Yes, very, very much shout out to them. Now here's a game I want to give a shout out to, which I like to. This might be my, they say, they go, oh, that old man's always kicking his dog over there. We got 17 weeks of football, 16 games to go over. And you're going to hear the same theme from me for the entire year. 471, 472. Washington and Haskins, Baker Mayfield's on one side of the football. I look at this game and I keep it simple to myself. If we don't overextend Baker Mayfield in this game, if we hand it off to those two dominant running backs, we lean on our offensive line. I say we as being the Cleveland Browns, even though I'm not a Browns fan. Right. They should win this game and win this game without any problems. Now, when I say not any problems, that mean they win by 28 points? No. I'm just saying take it out of Baker Mayfield's hands to make a mistake and blow this game. The only way the Cleveland Browns don't, A, win this game, and B, cover, is if they just hand the football away, like the Philadelphia Eagles did in week 1 when they got up 17-0. Here, Washington, take the ball at midfield, take the ball on your own 20, kick a couple field goals, score a couple 30-yard drives on touchdowns, and beat us. You saw last week Arizona didn't do that. Washington Redskins couldn't keep up. So the same thing is in place because I like the front seven for the Washington Redskins, no doubt about it. I like their head coach. He's always going to have them playing hard. But I digress back to the original point. terrible quarterback, terrible running game, half a wide receiver, no tight ends, and an average offensive line. I'm not taking that any way, shape, or form. You can be as sharp as you want out there in the chat box or in the national media. Watch Washington play hard in this game. The only reason why the Cleveland Browns would lose this game or not cover is because Baker Mayfield was 21 of 46, 3 interceptions, and a lost fumble. Otherwise, they should be able to dominate this football game from start to finish. And I like the Cleveland Browns in the first half in this game. They'll be up a touchdown at the half. I'm not worried about that. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I love that first half play. You took the words right out of my mouth. I think Cleveland jumps out to an early lead. Also, you brought up, Baker under pressure, maybe making some mistakes. Ryan Kerrigan, the best defensive lineman other than their young kid, Chase Young, did not practice as well. So he could be a little bit banged up on that Washington defensive line. But I don't think I will be picking Washington to cover anything all year unless it's a crazy, 14.5, 15 type of line. But right now, sitting at a touchdown or under, I like Cleveland a lot in this game. Just too many weapons, not enough juice on that Washington offense. I know Antonio Gibson's starting to get there. Terry McLaurin, certainly a great player, and you feel bad for him kind of being stuck on this offense. But as the secondary gets more and more healthy, we saw Kevin Johnson as a limited practice today, so that's just improving things for that Cleveland secondary. Jack Conklin looks like he could return. Jarvis Landry was a full participant in practice. So even Greedy Williams, who was a good corner for them last year. So things are going to be getting tougher for Washington, easier for Cleveland. I like Cleveland to cover. They're just better at every aspect, even quarterback, which sometimes is hard to say when you have Baker Mayfield behind the helm.
Yeah, and also keep in mind as well, Kyle, you get the extra couple days to get rested and ready for your opponent. And also getting back, the practice reports are in here for Thursday. Ryan Kerrigan's did not practice on Wednesday for rest. He was a full go today participant. And also the same thing with Thomas Davis. So we're going to see that a lot in this, COVID era where you're just looking to get through the season, and your veterans who have played 10 years in the football league, they're going to be getting a lot of rest during the week, specifically earlier. Those Thursday and Friday reports, they're going to be the most interesting ones that you're certainly going to want to keep an eye on. But that premise is the same. Opened up at 7. You see only the 7.5 at FanDuel, but that line is particularly at 7 across the board, and it just makes sense to me. I'm looking at the half. It's one of those things where if they're going to cover the full game, they have to be up at least 17-10, 17-7, 17-6 at the half. I would be mildly surprised if Washington came out and was able to get into the double digits in the first half, which leads me to a Cleveland first half. I don't want to look at the end of the game where, hey, McLaurin got wide open on a go route and nobody really cares about him. I think Cleveland should put the screws to him at home, extra break against that Washington football team. 473, 474 Philadelphia on red alert, referendum time on Carson Wentz. Is he the quarterback we all thought he would be? This is the game that you have to sit back and say, thank you. They didn't give us the Ravens this week, the Chiefs, or somebody that was going to knock their block off, because you're going up against a de facto pillow on defense for the Cincinnati Bengals. So if you're Carson Wentz and not playing well, it's like me and Kyle out there running around on defense. That's what you're getting from the Cincinnati Bengals. Not to say the Philadelphia Eagles should win easy or even win this game, but this is a matchup you lick your chops for. If you're any offense in the NFL, you should do whatever you want to this defense. Even though Jalen Reagor goes down, which is a big injury for the Philadelphia Eagles on the outside. If you're looking at wide receivers, Deshaun Jackson should be able to get open in this game. But those tight ends, Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, should eat over the middle. There's not much resistance here. You just need the quarterback play to improve for the Eagles, and they should move the football. So their team total certainly will be in play. But also, take a look from the opposite perspective. Opens up at 6.5 as a favorite for the Bengals. We're now seeing 4.5 across the board because everything you see with your eyeball test says the Philadelphia Eagles right now are not a good football club. They're not good at linebacker. They're not getting home on the defensive line. Their safety is completely out of position, and you should be able to eat from the tight end position. But keep in mind, a lot of guys banged up at the tight end position and out for the year for the Cincinnati Bengals. But the one thing, if you're looking to take it over in this game, Kyle, you're getting really good weather in Philadelphia. You're getting no fans in Philadelphia for a rookie quarterback. And they're not afraid to let this guy throw 40 to 50 times. So even if the Eagles take the lead, what do you like about Joe Burrow? The kid has legs, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 10. He could run for it. I like the over in this game, too. I lean towards the Eagles at 4.5. I think it's a cheap number, but I think we're going to get points in this game more so.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you just saw it in the chat box. Alshon Jeffrey looks to be close to returning. Could return this week, right? Wasn't he a full
Couple weeks,
participant
yeah. He'll
today?
be out a couple more weeks.
A couple
Limited
more weeks.
participant today, but yeah,
Oh, okay.
not this week, maybe the next week. But it's a good sign for the Eagles.
Right. Good sign for the Eagles. And the real good sign for the Eagles is you get to play against a Cincinnati team that absolutely cannot stop the run. So Miles Sanders should absolutely feast
Yes.
in this game. I think he's going to have a huge week. He had his first week back last week after being hurt week 1. I think the Eagles easily cover in this game, and I
You were
shiver
doing
saying
that to me, Kyle.
I know it. I know.
You are so above board on the Philadelphia Eagles. It's hurting my feelings as we keep
I
getting.
know. I know it. I know it. And I shudder at taking him because I am losing faith week by week in Carson Wentz and this offense. But I just don't see how Cincinnati can stop that running game. I think the Philadelphia Eagles have a better front seven, a better secondary. Hasn't looked great. So certainly the weapons for the Bengals, A.J. Green and Tyler Boyd, etc. You could see some big plays there. Joe Mixon, of course. You mentioned the injuries at tight end, C.J. Uzoma, etc. But right now, I do like the over in the points. I like that warm weather. I think both these teams can move up and down the field on each other. But I do think the Eagles win this game by a touchdown, sort of this 31-20, 31-24 type game. Cincinnati. Watch out for Cincinnati in those late backdoor covers. They did it to me last week, but -4.5 seems reasonable. You're seeing that on most books. I like Philadelphia at home.
Yeah, it's just hard for me because, seeing what you see over the years, it's very hard. Even again, we have to take the crowds out of it. It's still hard to win football games on the road in the NFL, even more so hard because I think even though we're so down on the Philadelphia Eagles, you still have to take a step back and say, the Cincinnati team stinks. Yes, Joe Burrow's a lot of fun to watch and he's improving. Keep in mind, yeah, he covered last week, but they were down double digits in a drive that didn't matter. You have to keep that in check. And, first week, did you see him run? What'd they throw for like 173 yards in week 1? So temper your expectations on Cincinnati. Sure. They were the worst team in football last year for a reason. Yes, they got Joe Burrow, but they're still one of the worst teams in football. So we'll see what happens with the Eagles. As an Eagles fan, I hope it works out well, but I do think both of these teams are capable of scoring points, but I see a lot of momentum out there. Take the Cincinnati back. Dude, they stink. That team stinks with a rookie quarterback. So just keep that in mind when you're betting that game. 475, 476, Chicago and Atlanta. Trubisky going on the road, and yes, Trubisky, not the favorite this week, opens up at 3. Right. Now some 3s with juice, 3.5s across the board. 7 out of every 10 tickets here, Kyle, going with the Atlanta Falcons. Over-under opened up at 48. Now we're seeing 47.5. Here's my problem with this game. Everybody should be able to score points on Atlanta. I think we can agree on that. You saw week 1. I mean, Russ is awesome. They lit it up and down the field. And then you get compounded by going against the Dallas Cowboys offense, which is tremendous as well. And they got shelled in both of those games. But now you get Mitchell Trubisky, who was shut out last week in the second half versus the New York Giants. Almost a role reversal of the week before. They were horrendous in the first half and very good in the fourth quarter. If Mitchell Trubisky can play pitch and catch in this game, it should go over because if Julio Jones is able to play, and every week we're going to be watching him on injury alert with his hamstring, he's a play away from sitting it out. But let's just say right now he gets a full practice on Friday. He's good to go Sunday. They have a great 3-headed monster wide receiver and a quarterback playing at an elite level. I know how good the Chicago Bears defense is, but they'll score. My question is, what am I getting out of Mitchell Trubisky? Because the line is 3. We're not expecting the Bears to hang around at 3, right? Oh, they lose 23-20. We end up pushing your bet. You're expecting, if you're taking the Chicago Bears, for them to be able to possibly win this football game. I don't know if I'm there with Mitchell Trubisky and the Bears, but the one thing I do know is they're getting points. So I'm interested. When the Bears are a favorite, I'm not so much interested in Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah, and it's do or die time for the Atlanta Falcons. And you got to think they're going to come out red hot after just a horrific loss. Let's not forget, they should have beaten that Dallas Cowboy team, and the Dallas Cowboys are exponentially better than the Chicago Bears. They're at home. Anytime I don't care who Atlanta's playing, when I see a team total for them under 50, I'm taking the over because that team's going to throw the ball a ton. You're going to see extra possessions, extra plays. That defense is absolutely abysmal, one of the bottom 3 or 4 defenses in the NFL. So even though I don't trust Mitchell Trubisky, I think Atlanta covers this. I think this is a get-right game for them. They need to win this game. Dan Quinn needs this game to possibly keep his job. I like Atlanta at home. I like the over in this just because even though I think Atlanta wins and I don't think Mitchell Trubisky is very good, I think almost anybody can score on this Atlanta defense. They're just that bad. So give me the over and give me the Falcons at home to get things right. I know our friend Kelsey Kramer will be happy to hear me say that.
No, she certainly will. And Eno in the chat box says Quinn's job is on the line. The Falcons win big. It's a very good point you bring up, not because job's on the line, nor do they probably even care about their head coach as long as their check cashes. But my question would be is, that game was a W last week. They won that game, but left the stadium with a loss. How does that play over this week? How about if, a fumble in the opening drive or a pick six and the Bears go up 7-0? Here we go again. We can't win this football game. And it's it's an interesting thing because it is going to measure how well Dan Quinn is going to serve as the Atlanta head football coach moving forward. Because if they're at home, they get beaten this game. He might not survive at this point, but the whole psyche of that organization rested because that was a win last week, and you're walking away going, good, we beat the Cowboys, let's continue. That was a complete nightmare for them, so we'll see how that plays out. We'll keep it moving down the list. A game that we don't have to spend much time on here, 477, 478, Jets and Indianapolis Colts. Line opens up at 9.5, now sits at 11.5 across the board. A low over-under, which is getting even lower, Kyle, opened up at 45. Now we're seeing that number at about 44 at most outlets, offshore and also legal. I don't know how I'm trying to preface this by saying, the Colts are a good football team. We saw them bounce back last week. Last week's Colts effort was what we actually thought the Colts would have been week 1 against Jacksonville, but just didn't show up. Banged up a little bit at wide receiver. T.Y. Hilton needs to step it up. I saw some of the tweets out there that his grandmom called him up and was like, yo, hey, son, you're not playing that well, so he's going to look to play better. We'll see if that really influences. But the defense is better. Everything is better about the Indianapolis Colts in this game. But we're human beings, and so are they. Are they really excited to play in front of no fans against the Jets? Is this really getting them going? Or is this like, you know what? We got an easy win this weekend? Because in the NFL, no matter what team it is, they're still professionals, and that's a lot of points to cover. Case in point, you're down 17 points with 2 minutes to go, and Darnold and Gase are looking to work on their offense, dink and dunk it down the field, punch in a touchdown. It's a 10-point game. Still was a blowout, right? But you lost your bet. Those are the ones that make it hard for me. And I don't even advocate because you're going to have to probably first half looking at like a 7 number. So you're going to have to be up double digits at the half. This is a stay away game for me. I didn't even really feel like capping this game because I just think it stinks and it probably won't even ever make it.
Wait a second. So now Donnie is passing on the game. I love that because I'm right there with you, honestly. Yeah. And I usually get in trouble for doing that, but
it's not. I think what I'm saying is this game shouldn't even be in the NFL. It's not worthy of my captain.
Yeah, the only Jets I care about are the ones flying. I don't know if you can hear them. They're just flying overhead like crazy today.
Yeah, where are you in Russia out there? I mean,
practice
your
mode
house?
Today, they are going absolutely berserk today. But no, I mean, the Jets are terrible. They're real bad. I mean, they couldn't even do anything against the 49ers after they lost their entire team last week at home. Yeah. Now they're on the road. Jonathan Taylor should run wild in this game. You just kind of worry if Indianapolis takes their foot off the gas after they're up, 21-0, 23-3. I don't want to touch any part of this game. I guess if I was making a bet, I would lean the under because I don't trust the Jets offense to do anything to get the game to that total. But I'm with you. This is one not a whole lot of interest in. Won't be a
No, you know what the best part about this game is, Kyle, is you see the graphic on there. Like that is right here where it says Jets Colts with the crisp graphics. That's the best part about this game. So, hey,
that's right.
Maybe we already got a win in the book right now. No, we don't want to spend too much time on that one. Here's an interesting game here. 479, 480. Moving on. The Chargers, Justin Herbert's going to start, and you don't like to poke. See, there I go again. Poke fun. Pinch, poke lung for Tyrod Taylor. For the I didn't actually mean to do that, but it actually came out pretty well. Now, did that injury save? I don't want to say save the job for Anthony Lynn, but force him into making the right decision? Because you probably sat down with Tyrod Taylor in the offseason and say, hey, you're going to be my starter. You're going to groom this rookie. We didn't see him getting hurt, which, again, there should be a massive fine, by the way, for the Chargers, that we're now coming to find out that, your quarterback broke his ribs, Tyrod Taylor, in week 1 and wasn't reported. And we're thinking like, oh, wait, he got injured on Friday or in warm-ups he had a freak injury. No, he actually getting the pain injection and ended up piercing his lung. But we're saying like, well, when was that from? And Anthony Lynn kind of, oh, well, yeah, he broke his ribs week 1. And I'm saying as a gambler, like that would be nice information to know off the bat. And that's supposed to be listed. If you're an NFL organization, NFL team, they're all being sponsored by sports books. That can't happen where a starting quarterback has broken ribs and nobody knows about it. Now, we flip it over. We all see how well Justin Herbert played, and we still heard Anthony Lynn. Hey, guys, what's the rush here? Tyrod Taylor's going to be our quarterback, and we're all doing like a face palm. Like, dude, let your young quarterback rip. He is your future, and he played well. So now he's actually going to play in this game, which everybody wanted him to play in this game outside of Anthony Lynn. but now he's the starter. Yes, he's going to get extra work in practice. He'll be with the number ones all week long. But the interesting part about this game overall is how well you're going to play second, because we always see, like, you come out, boom, right on the scene, and then you sort of backtrack because now you got some film out. But he's going against a defense that is certainly susceptible to yards by the pass and also the run. So maybe a big weekend here by Austin Eckler in this game. But the line says different. Opened up at 7. Now, you're telling me that if Tyrod Taylor was playing, it was 7, and now it's 6.5 because Herbert's playing? I don't think so. But it's a lot of points because most of the public will see, McCaffrey's going to miss this game. I can't bet the Panthers, but they have a really good wide receiving core, and they have a quarterback that's playing at a good level, solid offensive coordinator. One would think they would be in this game. And again, I like to go against rookie quarterbacks. I don't know if Justin Herbert's going to go 25 to 30 for 345, 3 touchdowns and no picks in his second start in the NFL. So I'm going to lean on the points in this game here, but I do think we're going to get some points. The 43.5 seems cheap. I think Carolina can get to 20 points, and I think those Chargers can do some damage. I like the over in this game.
That's interesting. I think I'm going the other way of the under. We saw what this Chargers secondary did to Patrick Mahomes last week, and they sort of seem to have his number. That is a terrific secondary out in L.A., and they're going to be even more hyped up. And you got to wonder, did Anthony Lynn know he had a punctured lung when he's telling us that he's going to play this week and he's the guy? Like, that's such a weird story. It's just bizarre, right? Like, I saw a meme. It was Gladiator, when Joaquin Phoenix stabs Russell Crowe before he comes out and fights. That's basically the doctor before.
Yep. Yes.
That's basically the doctor before the game.
Yeah.
But that Chargers secondary, I think, is legit. That pass rush is legit. No Christian McCaffrey. So even though I don't like that 6.5, especially for a rookie quarterback, you're 100% right about that. I like what I'm seeing out of the Chargers running game. Eckler and now the rookie Joshua Kelly, who had something like 23 carries last week. Carolina cannot stop the run. They haven't been able to for 2 years. One of the worst teams you'll ever see at stopping the run, them and the Bengals, neck and neck. So I still think the Chargers cover at home. Maybe they're a little energized by Justin Herbert. The passing game will certainly be more dynamic, and he can run the ball a little bit. We saw that. So even though I'm tepid about it, I'm going to take the LA Chargers at home minus 6.5.
I like where you're going with this, and hear me out on my thoughts behind it, because you are correct. There's a very good front seven for the Chargers and a decent secondary still left over, even though you don't have Derwin James. But my process going through this game is you don't have a running game to lean on if you're the Panthers. Not to say the Panthers are going to win. So if you're under heavy duress on pass rush, 2 things are going to happen. You're going to get to the quarterback, you're going to sack, you're going to get big plays, maybe a fumble. But also, if you're the Panthers, if your game plan is going in without Christian McCaffrey to hand the football off, when the strength of your team now is the wide receivers, I'm looking for Teddy Bridgewater to pass in the 40 range. And the point you made, which I think is best about this game, you go from you saw it last week. You go from Tyrod Taylor and I'm going to sit in the pocket and wait and not make a mistake and take the 4-yard gain. And if it's 3rd and 6, I can run for 7 yards just to move the chains. You now have a guy with an absolute howitzer that can launch it downfield against a really bad defense. That's the angle I'm coming at this game. Not because I'm saying Carolina should be able to exploit that defense on the Chargers. That's a good defense, but just the style of the game. You're going to need to throw to beat the Chargers. You're not going to make your meal on the ground, and then you're still going to be able to stay aggressive from the Chargers offense because that quarterback can touch it downfield where Tyrod Taylor couldn't do that. Let's keep going here, but that's a fascinating game to watch. I'm still going to lean on that over in that one. Here's another game that people are leaning on the over and falling through the door on. 53 now turns into 55.5 out in the desert. And I got to say, I agree with it, but sometimes, I think there's going to be points, but there's points, Kyle, 46 points, and thinking there's points at 56 points. You need 60 to win this game. Theoretically, both teams approaching 30 or more points in this game is hard to touch. But now, look at this game here for Matthew Stafford. You know Arizona's going to go fast. We know Arizona's going to score in Detroit. But you know what I like here? Matthew Stafford countering. Now, if I can get a full complement of wide receivers for Detroit, Kenny Golladay comes back, Jones is there, Amendola's in the slot, a decent running game, and Matthew Stafford slinging, I think they can score points. So instead of looking at that 55.5, which is so hard to get, you're just not trained in the NFL looking at that. Like, everything has to go right in order to hit that total. Can they? Sure. But I'm looking at it from a perspective where if I have Detroit down in the fourth quarter, which they are underdogs and they should be, I think Stafford can turn it on as long as he has those 3 wide receivers. I think they could score some points. So that team total for Detroit, which was hovering, I don't have book in front of me, somewhere around that like 24.5 range. I think that's a viable option. I like that play this weekend for Detroit, but going on the road, beating Arizona the way they're playing, I don't know if that's there, but I do think that Detroit can score some points in this game.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I don't think that Arizona secondary is something to be scared of. I know Patrick Peterson is there, but he still hasn't sort of been the same. Kenny Galladay's certainly on track to play this week. All indications are that he's going to be back. And you're right, Matthew Stafford is notorious for this sort of stuff in the fourth quarter especially. They're down, 31-14. Boom, boom, boom. He pops up off a couple of touchdowns late. They try an onside kick with a minute left to go, and they lose by 3, but they cover, and that's kind of where I'm leaning. I like the Cardinals a lot. I think the Cardinals win this game, but I think it's a late cover by Detroit. I'm not touching that total up there at 50. That's just scary, even though it's certainly within reason. The 31-28 game is certainly within reason here, and you'd hit that over. Yeah. But, man, that's just a lot of points. My brain, unless I'm looking at Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson on the field, it's hard for me to get into, or I'm looking at an Atlanta defense or a Carolina defense. I like Detroit to cover in this game. I like Arizona to win, but I think Detroit covers.
Yeah, because I mean, as I prep for my shows and sort of like later in the week when you're trying to assess your plays, I told you I go to like 5 or 6 sports books, and some food for thought here. Detroit is 24.5 plus 100 at one book, as high as 25s minus 110 at other books. But here's also a point that you like to bring up, because Kyle knows he uses the moniker all the time. You play through 3s and 7s in the NFL, and here's a shot that you like, because the key numbers on the team totals are what we like to look at, right? Are 17.5, not so much 21, because it's really rare that team scored just 3 touchdowns in the game with, no 2-point conversions and no field goals. But 24.5 is a key number. And I always preach by saying, you want the best number possible. If you're getting 24.5, some of these books are allowed you to trade points. So 24.5 to me is the same as like 25, 25.5, 26 in that range until you get up to around 28. So instead of flipping that 24.5 at plus 100, we're waiting on getting the 24 because that's a huge move. But the difference between 24.5 and 25.5 is not much, but you might be able to get plus 125 in exchange for that plus 100. Visually, 24.5 looks greater. You want the lower number, but in a football way of life, 24.5 doesn't make much sense as much as 25, 25.5 until you get up to those numbers like 27.5, because most teams don't go out and score. I mean, you see like 28.5. Oh, I don't want to go over that. How many teams in the NFL score 4 touchdowns and no other points in a game? Those are the ones that you want to look against. But the 24.5 is a very key marker. 3 touchdowns, 1 field goal, if you get those plus points over there. But that's just a little bit of betting into the mindset that I do like to take a look at those things. But good game 100%. There out in the desert. We should get points. Tampa Bay, Denver, going up to those, high altitudes. And we usually get a rocking crowd out there at Mile High. Not going to be the case this weekend either. But you are going to get, Tampa Bay gets a little bit of a break here. If you're Tampa Bay, you'd rather go to Denver in September where it's going to be mid-70s than go out there in December when it's 32 degrees and freezing cold and the wind is whipping out here. We take a look at this line, opened up at 6. It's still 6s across the board, even though Jeff Driscoll is going to play in this game and without Cortland Sutton. I like the fight they showed last week here, Kyle, when they were going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But now looking at this game factoring it in, it's hard to go against Tom Brady now that Godwin's going to be back with a complete offense. So as I'm going through this game and looking, what do I like better? 8 out of 10 tickets here coming in on Tampa Bay. Maybe a first half up by a touchdown or something like that I can deal with. But outside of that, I still think maybe Denver can move that ball, and that 42 is going to be in play here.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And, the injuries in the Denver secondary, Chris Godwin. I do apologize for the noise. The Jets are going absolutely crazy over. They are just practicing.
The New York Jets? Who's up there? Sam Darnold?
Yeah, the New York Jets. These Jets are flying a little higher than the Jets will ever fly in the NFL, but they are in practice mode today. So sorry for some of that crazy Jet sound. But yeah, I actually like Tom Brady in the spot. We talked about a little bit of the injury to DJ Hayden. Is he going to be, or not DJ Hayden, AJ Bouye? I'm trying to look at the practice.
I don't think he's going to. He was slated to be out a couple weeks here.
So he should miss this week. So. Yeah, Chris Godwin coming back for Tampa Bay. This is a chance for Tom Brady. I still don't think he looked great last week, but I like Tampa Bay in this game. I saw a question in the chat, Tom Brady or Ryan Tannehill this week. I think you have Tannehill without his full complement of receivers. You got the full complement for Tampa Bay this week. I think the Buccaneers win this game. Leonard Fournette starting to come around. So now you're going to have sort of this 1-2 punch at running back with Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. Tom Brady should be able to cover the spread. It's under a touchdown. If it were to move to 7.5, I might be a little more nervous. You made a great point about the fight that they showed with Jeff Driscoll, but Jeff Driscoll's not the guy. And I just can't see it going down. Cortland Sutton out for the season, so they're very limited on the outside. Of course, Phillip Lindsay looks like he's going to miss again this week. So they're just down to Melvin Gordon, and Tampa Bay is dominant at stopping the run, one of the best run defenses in the league. I think Tampa Bay covers. I know it's a road favorite into Mile High, which is always scary, but give me the Bucks by a touchdown.
Yeah, I got to do some film work on this because that's a low number to look at. And I know people just say, oh, well, your quarterback's down, Cortland Sutton's down. There's still some viable options on that team. And I don't know how good Tampa Bay's secondary is, but I do think Tampa Bay will be able to move. And again, you're talking about Tom Brady, which would be much, much harder in Denver if he has trouble hearing on third down. Not the case for these veterans, man. It's like a cakewalk going out there in some of these venues that are like, oh, man, we got to go to Denver. Yes, you're going to deal with some altitude, but it's going to be nice and sunny on Sunday. And again, no fans to blast. And, it's funny stuff. David Munoz says, LOL, my speakers are going crazy. You get this all the time. And I don't know if anyone's ever done shows out there, but when it's blasting in your ear and you got to keep your train of thought and keep moving. So many times I open up the shows where my YouTube is on in my ear while I'm talking 5 seconds ahead. It's maddening. But as they say, the show must go on and we'll do it live. And there always is going to be some crazy things that happen here. Let's keep going. 485, 486. Another good game in prime time on Sunday afternoon. That's the Dallas Cowboys and the Seattle Seahawks. 7 out of every 10 tickets in here coming in on Seattle. What's not to like? Russ is cooking. He's going to score points. But then you see another line. This opened up at 55.5 and sitting at 56 at most outlets. And the line is moving higher in the direction. Seattle opened up at 4. Now we're seeing 5s across the board. I did a video earlier today. I have Seattle on upset alert. Not because I think the Dallas Cowboys can come in there and score, but it's just de facto by the way that Seattle plays. Very rarely does Seattle come out here and be like, we're just going to bust open the Jets and let this thing run loose. They play so many one-score games. And the one thing that I'm not a Dallas Cowboy fan, but I am a fan of that offense. It is relentless. It comes after you in all directions. You have running backs on that team. Obviously, Zeke Elliott. You have a full plethora of wide receivers, a good offensive line, and a susceptible defense with Seattle. I like Seattle's secondary, but show me a team that's out here outside of playing like opening day and you're not ready to play against the Rams and you're blowing 4th down calls, not kicking field goals and getting pass interferences. This offense is going to move the football this weekend. I like the Cowboys here getting the points in this game, Kyle.
Yeah, anytime. We've talked about this every week. It's Russell Wilson by 1 point, by 2. I mean, I know they won by 5 last week, but I mean, that was by half a yard, 1 yard, Cam Newton barreling in.
Yes, sir.
So I think Dallas covers. I actually don't mind that point total. I know it's high, but I don't mind playing up to that 57 number. Both of these secondaries are very, very vulnerable. I know it's crazy, but you look at some of these matchups. Tyler Lockett in the slot is going to be matched up against Jordan Lewis on 65, 70% of his routes. Jordan Lewis is the one corner in the league who is giving up the most, not just fantasy points per play, but receptions per route ran against. He's giving up almost a full fantasy point. It's by far more than any other corner in the league. That Dallas defense is beat up, Leighton Vander Esch, etc. I think there's a lot of points in this game. I just don't see anything by either team that suggests they can stop the other's offense. The only thing that would really limit this is if you get one of those Dak Prescott, Mike McCarthy type, brain fart games where they just call these simple plays and can't convert on third down. Every time I think of Seattle, Dallas, I think of that Tony Romo fumbled extra point field goal in that playoff game. But I like both offenses in this game. They both have plus matchups across the board in the secondary. Lots of passing yards, lots of points in this game. I don't think you see many punts. So even though it's a big number, and I just talked about, I don't like those huge numbers. When I look at these two teams, I just don't see how they stop each other.
Yeah, and I was interested, because they have really good players in that secondary for Seattle. But week 1 against Atlanta, they give up 434 in the air. Week 2 against New England, who was just running back by committee week 1, Cam Newton almost goes for 400 yards passing with not a lot of explosive players. Now you have some really explosive players coming in for Dallas. Should be a good watch. Sunday Night Football, 2 games left here on the card for us, 487, 488. Green Bay and New Orleans, Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees. I open up the week, I look at this like, you got to be kidding me, because I'm down a little bit on New Orleans because I see Drew Brees and the extreme regression already early in the season, where we knew it was last year the case, but they sort of masked it. They had enough weapons around them. He's not going to be able to push the football downfield, but there is no better player in the fourth quarter down double digits than Drew Brees. He wants 300 yards regardless if his team wins or loses, and that was on display fully on Monday Night Football against the Raiders. I don't know if he's going to get that chance this week, but there should be points in this game. But a key ingredient here, I was all over Green Bay earlier in the week. Maybe Davante Adams left the game on Sunday. We'll see what happens. He's working off to the side. I don't think they're going to put him on turf this weekend, and that really damages that offensive game plan. Even though Aaron Rodgers is playing at such an elite level, if I want to go down into the Dome and beat the New Orleans Saints, I need to be full go. Take Davante Adams and the threat out of that offense, and it changes the tone of the game. But having said that, I don't want any part of New Orleans. I just, look, if Michael Thomas thinks he's going to play on a high ankle sprain, that's fine. He'll be on one leg and probably re-injure it. I don't want the New Orleans Saints at all without Michael Thomas. You saw them on Monday Night Football, decent first half, and completely get shut down in the second half. It's all Alvin Kamara or nothing on that team, and I'm not going to be able to do that. The line is shifting here, threes with some juice. If it gets 3.5, I might get back interested in Green Bay, but I need to know the status of Davante Adams at wide receiver.
Yeah, he looks pretty limited, and even if he plays and he's not 100%, what does he draw but a shadow coverage from Marshawn Lattimore, who through the first 2 weeks of the season is playing out of his mind. He's been one of the better shadow corners in the league, so it's going to be a tough matchup for Davante Adams anyways. And we've actually seen this from Aaron Rodgers in the past, especially on the road. When there's a tough shadow corner on his best receiver, he'll stay away from him. You remember those games against Seattle? He wouldn't even throw towards Richard Sherman when Jordy Nelson was over there. So, and you look at some of the home road splits. The New Orleans Saints, I'm always on Drew Brees at home. I know they look terrible. Drew Brees is going through the gauntlet this week. Even some whispers should Jameis Winston take over at quarterback for Drew Brees, which is just insane for me. So I think the competitive nature of Drew Brees, even without Michael Thomas, I'll be very surprised if he plays this game. If you look at Drew Brees' home and road splits, and we talked about this on Monday Night Football, he's 89-50 at home, 75-63 on the road. Then you take his counterpart, Aaron Rodgers. In 92 career road games, Aaron Rodgers is 500, 46-46. You look at him at home, 72-18. So you're looking at a quarterback who's much better at home than he is on the road, and a quarterback who's much better at home than he is on the road, and you have that perfect recipe. Saints -3. I know they haven't looked great. I know there's no Thomas, but it's hard for me to bet. I've made a nice living betting on New Orleans at home, and I'm going to continue that path.
Yeah, no, and I can't disagree with you on that point, but I look at this as a new day and age. I mean, Drew Brees is really slowing down at a rapid pace. And the only reason why New Orleans is tough at home, honestly, is because of that dome. If you took the dome off of New Orleans, they would be a very average franchise. But that chance of having where nobody can hear on one side of the football, if you ever played a sport, you don't understand the magnitude of what you get. Not only is the offense flustered, but the defense jumps the snap every single time because you have to go on a silent count. It's an amazing advantage, and now without that, we'll see how it progresses through the season. But it is hard. It's hard to go against it. Drew Brees, primetime in the Dome, it's usually money in your back pocket. You are correct about that. Yeah. Monday Night Football, maybe the game. Look, it's only week 3, but this might be the game of the year, the most hyped game of the year, and it's a wonderful spot. You know, you take a look at maybe a revenge factor for the Baltimore Ravens in this one. Opens up at 3, shifts to 3.5. Wait a second. I can get Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes in this game and get points. Where do I sign up? This is a different breed Baltimore team, and the way they approach their business here, there is a reason why the Super Bowl champions with the best player to ever be on the face of the earth, Patrick Mahomes, is a dog, opens up at 3 and now gets to 3.5. I look for the Ravens, and it's a shame no fans are going to get to see this game down in Baltimore, but this team is about business. Honestly, I would be shocked, Kyle, if the Baltimore Ravens lost this football game. Lamar Jackson should be ready to go. A 4-headed monster at running back, wide receivers, a dominant defensive front 7. Now, you do have a key injury with your slot corner for the Baltimore Ravens that's going to miss this game at a really bad, not a great opportune time. But this is the same team that the Chiefs went on the road, played a really fast and physical defense with a rookie quarterback, and should have gotten beat last week. The Baltimore Ravens are on a mission this year. They're beating the Chiefs Monday Night Football. What do you think here?
I mean, we're not supposed to agree this much, but I absolutely agree. The loss of Sammy Watkins, it doesn't look like Sammy Watkins is going to play after that massive hit he took last week. He's still in concussion protocol. These two teams played last year in week 3. You remember it was a really good game. It was 33-28, over 900 yards of offense. Kansas City got off to that big lead, and then Lamar Jackson brought him back. The one big difference from last year to this year is during that game, Baltimore had yet to acquire Marcus Peters. Marcus Peters is a terrific corner. Now, one thing about Marcus Peters is he's a good shutdown corner, and he'll make big plays. There's always an opportunity for him to get a pick six. But he also takes some risks, some chances, and gives up some big plays. And we know what the Chiefs like to do is get the big play. Now, listen, I do not think you're crazy for seeing Kansas City plus money and saying, give me the Super Bowl champs with plus money. Yeah. But when you look at the strengths of that Baltimore offense, running the football, fast guys on the outside, Kansas City still without their best corner, Bashaud Breeland, they struggle to stop the run. That's the way you beat Kansas City. And this isn't a boring running game for Baltimore. It's an explosive running game with Baltimore with a running quarterback, a tough defense that you could absolutely say is better than the Chargers defense they played last week, even though they will be without Marlon Humphrey in the slot. It's a great point. But I do like Baltimore minus 3.5. It's crazy. If you had told me that sometime this year I wouldn't take the Chiefs laying points, I would have told you you're crazy. But Baltimore's on a roll. I like Baltimore a lot. Better defense, better running game, a little bit healthier on the offensive side of the ball. I like the Baltimore Ravens.
You know what's wild about this game, too, is when you look at it, because we focus on Kansas City's offense, Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes. When you cross the 50-yard in this game, your field goal is already good. Two of the best kickers, long-range kickers you can get in this game. You saw the guy plaster 3 50-yard plus field goals in the final seconds of the game. Penalties, timeouts, 58-yarder, 58-yarder, all good. And then you have Tucker on the opposite side of the field. So points, I won't say will be at a premium in this game because the line opens up at, 52 and is now at 54 across the board. As soon as they cross the 50, you can just hit the cash register with an automatic 3 points, maybe upgraded to 7 points. Both of these kickers are that good. What a week on the card here, Kyle. About an hour and 5 minutes, wrapped it up. Crisp, clean show. A lot to look forward to. We want to thank you guys for tuning in here. And also, before we get out of here, let's put a nice little bow on tonight's Thursday night football game between Miami and Jacksonville. Look, I can't go through like 10 books while we're here live on the air in a minute, but just to give some thoughts and prognosis behind the game, I like both of these teams to score points. Do I trust that they can get into the 50s? I think they can do that. But I got to tell you, if either one of these teams is down, they're going to be able to move the football late in this game. And I just look at Ryan Fitzpatrick and that offense. Now, Devontae Adams is going to play. DJ Chark's not going to play on the opposite side. I'm going to lean on the over 22.5 points for the Miami Dolphins. I think they can get to 24 points today, and I'm going to go with that. Any thoughts or any plays tonight here, Kyle, on the Miami game?
Yeah, I'm looking at Devontae Parker over 4.5 catches at plus 127. I like that. I think there's a ton of passes tonight. I like both quarterbacks. I'm looking at over 21.5 completions for Minshew and 22.5 completions for Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think you can lock both of those in. Laviska Shenault over 4 catches. Again, with DJ Chark out, I'm looking for these guys who are going to be the beneficiaries for more targets their way. Shenault, Keelan Cole makes a whole lot of sense at 4.5. But the one where I'm getting plus money, Devontae Parker over 4.5 catches, that feels right to me. And you can get Gesicki at over 4.5 as well. Two quarterbacks who are going to air it out. So I like a couple of those prop bets tonight.
No, it's a great card. It's a fun card this week. And again, we do it all over again on Sunday. We'll know who's in, who's out on the inactives. It's a great 1-hour show. We hit every single game on the Sunday card, go right up till kickoff, give out some best bets and have some fun. Kyle's going to have a prop bet later today or later this week coming out on video at sportsbookreview.com. I'll give a best bet and banker, which we did very well on those, and I expect them to do extremely well again this week. We'll go over our pick 6 plays also on Sunday. If you're not in that contest, sign up. Maybe you can't win the whole full prize at the end, but we're giving out at least $1,500-$1,600 a week in cash prizes. Go 5-1, 6-0. Have a shot to hit that. It's football season at sportsbookreview.com. Me and Kyle have a great time doing this show. Thank you for you guys for spending your Thursday afternoon with us. Over 325 people watching live, Kyle. Maybe if you're just getting off work on the, out there where you're out on the West Coast, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, sharing your time with us. Enjoy the football game tonight. We'll be back on the air, as I said, again on Sunday, but a lot of good things going on at the network. If you have any questions with what's going on, answer them right now. Hit the subscribe button and turn the notification bell on when we go live talking football, college football, UFC, UFC, NBA, Major League Baseball, everything. You're going to get that delivered to your inbox. I want to thank you guys for your time today. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Kyle Purviance. We're sportsbookraview.com, and this was your Thursday NFL show. Good luck, guys.